Thank you, Gil. It could be 30 minutes because we are absolutely pumped for this. As Gil said, this is really history making. And when you think back 4 years ago when we started the rebuild of Port Adelaide, it was based on a number of different pillars. It was based on getting the trust of our heartland back. It was based on really building national commercial partners to take the club forward. It was based on renegotiating a better stadium deal, of owning our licence back from the SANFL. And once we ticked all those off, we sat down and thought about, okay, what's a growth strategy for a club going into the future? How do you make this club, a little working class club in Adelaide, financially sustainable? And where can you grow that you get clear air away from the 17 other AFL clubs? What's new? How can you think outside the square, be a bit of a disruptor? And the two pillars we decided on was China and higher education. It hasn't been done overnight. It's been a long 4-year process of learning about doing business in China. It all stemmed from my eldest daughter and grandkids live in Hong Kong, and every time I'd go and visit, all the Australian expats up there would whinge to me about, we get no AFL up here. You know, we've got to go to rugby functions, we go to soccer functions, no AFL. So we started an annual business luncheon in Hong Kong, really successfully. And from there, we started to learn about China. We sponsored the Auskick and the local South China AFL competition. We started development offices in southern China. We started a program of getting Chinese business people to our games at Adelaide Oval, those that had business interests in Australia, and really teaching them about the game and the understanding of the game, with the message saying, if you've got business interests in Australia and you want to connect with the Australian community through footy, Port Adelaide is China's club. And as a result of that, we started to learn. We started to learn how to do business in China. We got, with the AFL's blessing, got our games telecast live on Chinese TV and the CCTV in the last year. Last season we averaged 3 million viewers a game. Tiny by Chinese standards, but kept growing and growing. And as a result of that, we've got 2 other networks in Shanghai and Guangzhou interested in taking our games next year as well. Last month, 12 high schools in Shanghai started playing AFL. It was the start of their new education year last month, and we have 12 schools that have adopted it because the central government has approved Auskick and AFL as an approved sport in Chinese schools. So it's been a long road and one that we've been really committed to. We've got as I say, full-time development officers in southern China. We have a full-time staff at Port Adelaide just focused on China of 4 people. And I've really got to pay tribute to that team for how they've taken this project and run with it, particularly Andrew Hunter. Andrew Hunter is the unsung hero of this entire project. He has run with this. He has learnt how to do business in China. He's learnt how to liaise with government. And Andrew, on behalf of the club and the AFL, a huge thanks to you. As also to Keith Thomas, our Chief Executive. Little sceptical at the start, but once he saw the potential, has thrown basically his whole life at this project and supported Andrew and really led from the front in terms of taking us forward. Can I also thank Gil and the AFL Commission for their support and encouragement along the way. I said to Gil about a year ago that I wanted Port Adelaide to be his most annoying club. Annoying because we would think a bit differently, because we'd try and challenge some of the traditions of the AFL and really take it to places where they hadn't thought of before, to push the boundaries, disrupt the status quo. And I think we've actually achieved that in being the most annoying club. But he's just backed me up. But all through that annoying period, he's backed us up completely. Also, thank you to Tony Cochran from the Gold Coast as well. When we first had this idea of a game in China, I needed a club that thought like us and a president that thought like us. If you like, a club that I could depend on to say yes. Tony's an entrepreneur. I've known him since the V8 supercar days. He took V8 supercars to Shanghai. He thinks like us, and Tony, thank you for your support. He was really encouraging to start with, and then he started negotiating the price, and I expected that, and he negotiated hard. Mr. Gui from Shanghai Cred, who has been one of our business people as part of our program to Adelaide Oval, fell in love with our game. He sends his apologies today. He's got other interests to take care of in Australia at the moment. But he's been a huge supporter of our push into China. And also Ausgold, our game day sponsor, Sally Zhao, has been, again, a Chinese business person, business interests in Australia, connecting to the Australian community. She sees football as the ideal way to do that. And Sally and Ausgold, to come on as our game day sponsor, we're incredibly appreciative of it. Couple of quick points. Why a competition game and not an exhibition game? Well, it shows respect and commitment to China and to the Chinese government, and also a commitment that we're in for the long term. Really important when you do business in China that you've got to show that respect and commitment. Why China? Well, you know, you only need to be blind. Don't need to be blind, Freddie, to realise how big China is. It's our biggest trading partner. It's the biggest economy in the world. 1.5 million mainland Chinese tourists came to Australia last year. That's a growth of 25%. It's now our biggest source of overseas tourists. And also, sport in China is becoming a big deal. It's a high priority on the next 5 and 10-year plan. And also there's sporting diplomacy. Taking Australia's Indigenous game to China, it shows great friendship and goodwill, and that's why the federal government is so supportive of our efforts. I like to say, now think of what Port Adelaide is to AFL in Australia, like the Bolshoi Ballet is to Russia. That is a joke. You know, same sort of cultural links and cultural perspective. Is this a one-off venture? No, it's in our view going to be an annual game in China. Our commitment is far deeper than just a game each year. It's really developing AFL in China through television, through involvement, through community, through the games, and we partnered up with social media companies in China and also TV companies to really start scaling up AFL, and I'd like to play a NAB Challenge game each year in a different Chinese city. I haven't broached that with the AFL yet. Don't want to push my luck. I'm annoying as it is, but that could be the next step. A lot of people say, well, why would anyone from China come and see the game? To be frank, no one cares about Port Adelaide in China. No one really cares about AFL. They love Australia. They love brand Australia. And what the game will be on the 14th of May is Australia Day in Shanghai. We'll have a wine and food expo at the same time. We'll have a travel expo. We'll have an education expo. It's really going to be a taste of Australia Day. And while you're tasting Australia, then come and see this crazy game they only play there. A bit like we all want to go and see the NFL when we travel to America because we never see it. This is Australia's Indigenous game, and the Chinese public love brand Australia. And so we're really leveraging that closely. What's in it for Adelaide-based Port Adelaide members who may not travel to China or care about China? Let me assure you that we still will have 11 games, home games at Adelaide Oval. This game we've bought from Gold Coast, so local members will still get their 11 memberships. So Port will be the host of the Shanghai game. A lot of our members are saying, you know, we're going too quickly. This isn't the 145-year-old club that we're used to. The message behind that is that we've got to change. Everyone's got to change. We've got to grow. Our home will always be Port Adelaide. Our home will always be Alberton. We've rejected a move to the centre of the city for our home. We're staying at Alberton. We're committed to Alberton. And if you want a comparison, Liverpool has become a big Chinese brand and a big team in China, but they always call Anfield home, and it will be exactly the same for Port Adelaide as well. Port Adelaide supporters, as Gil was saying, and supporters of other clubs who often schedule a travel game each year, come to Shanghai. You'll have a blast in the city and you'll watch a great game of footy as well. And travel packages are available on our travel site. And if you're a business, an Australian business that wants to crack China or test the Chinese market, come and do it with us. Come and do it with Australia's Indigenous game and be part of our expos. As Gil was saying, it's significant for us. The NBA opened its first office in China in 1992. It took 12 years to play a pre-season game up there. The NFL opened an office in 2006. They're yet to play a game in China in 4 years. We're playing a game for competition points. We're really excited about it. We think it's going to provide a great future for the code and also for the Port Adelaide Football Club.